Welcome to the Friday Everyday Podcast. This is where we share and explore how to design a thriving business and lifestyle so that we can live the lives we've always wanted right now.
It's where strategy meets energy work. It's where we'll unpack how to build a business that works for you and we'll make it tangible and actionable. I'm Jody Rumack, an online business coach, and my mission is to help you grow and scale your online business to create time freedom so that you can spend more time doing the things you love with the people you love.
And I'm Brian DeCastro. As a holistic health practitioner and Reiki master, my part in this mission is to provide self-care support and spiritual guidance to business owners who are shifting to align with their next level way of being.
So come and join us here where every day feels like Friday and the vibe is fun, inspiring, and real.
Just sit back, relax, and enjoy. This moment is yours and you've earned it.
This is the Friday Everyday Podcast. All right. Welcome back, you guys. We are in our next episode. I believe we're in episode 9 already.
Yes.
Almost at the end of the season. So today we want to talk about how to make it work while you are building your business. And this is one, as we dive into it, that I think will resonate with a lot of people who are trying to figure out how to make it, how to make the first few $1,000, how to get out of their job, or how to be sustainable while they're doing the entrepreneurship journey without drowning and building up a ton of debt and all that stuff. So we've got a few stories to share that we hope will help you guys, see the light and see if there is a way to make this work. And really looking forward to getting into this one.
Yeah, we talked about this preparing, and it can actually go a number of different ways because there's so many different sort of plot twists along the way as an entrepreneur, and I think it's perhaps a conversation that's not had enough. Like people who are going online trying to find a coach or whatever, or a mentor or something, tend to only see the outcome of a whole bunch of other shit that happened prior to them breaking through, right?
Yeah.
And along the way, people have had to do things to make ends meet, make things work, and take pressure off their business to deliver like the revenue right away, or take pressure off of their creativity to produce, a monetary outcome right away. So they've had to do things to kind of make it a little, sustainable and allow a bit more runway in order to get to where they need to be. So, yeah, where do we start? Where do we start with this?
Let's start with, sorry, go ahead.
What I was thinking of is like kind of when it started for me prior to leaving my place of employment, right? I might have shared in the past that I hit some real high, really great wins and milestones in the organization I was working for. And I had actually achieved the highest level that I wanted to be at. And I had checked off a number of different goals that I didn't even know that I signed up for when I first took the job. But there were things that you probably couldn't duplicate in another organization in the way that I had the opportunities there. So once I got there, we kind of leveled off. We expanded the facility. We doubled in size. We doubled in staff, almost doubled in personal trainers as well. And now we had financial responsibility to return the members the investment they've made in this giant expansion. And there were mixed ways to do that, but the way things were going next kind of just went beyond where my passions were. And to be honest, to be vulnerable, went beyond where my skill sets were at the time. So I was starting to think, if push come to shove and either I need to move on or I get phased out or whatever it is, what is my plan B? What is my next move, right? So I put pen to paper and started journaling a lot and stuff. I was kind of losing sleep over this too as well, but in 2015 was when I started to really drill down on potential business plans and potential things that could possibly be executed if I had left, right? Interestingly enough, January of 2016 was when I got phased out, not knowing that that's what was going to happen. So, I think the first step too, if someone hasn't taken the leap yet, and perhaps they're employed or in another business situation that are phasing out of, um, just start creating. The first phase would be starting to just create and dream about what you would do had
Mhm.
you not been in that situation, while there's still revenue coming in or while there's still a paycheck coming in, um, just to take some of the resistance and take some of the restriction away of that part of it, at least for now. So you have a little bit um, of ideas and things and moves you can make come time that move takes place, right? So that was the first thing for me as far as far as as far back as it can go, at least in my journey, right? And interestingly enough, when I did leave, the person I thought I would go to start personal training at his facility is the first person I went to, and we had already started having conversations prior to me leaving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, the relationships I kept when I was in college and at the club that I was at, were also with colleagues that graduated from the same college. And the work I did for the staff and for the team and the relationships I held inside that space led to me getting connected to my former prof that ended up hiring me to teach
Mm.
that fall in the college teaching personal training, which was one of the best fucking jobs I ever had. It was
Yeah.
part-time, a bit of travel into the city and stuff like that, but it provided regular revenue coming in um, to just, pad things up and have something coming in while I was building personal training at the studio, which was only 12 minutes away now. I didn't have to drive into Toronto. So some
Yeah.
things came together really quickly simply because I had relationships in place that I could go back to and connect
Yeah.
with. And that's what got me started in the initial phase. And revenue actually was coming in, not a lot yet, but there was revenue already being generated within my
Yeah.
business right out of the gate.
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of pieces that you already touched on, and people who
Hmm.
are listening might be in different places. You may be in the situation where you're in a job and you already know that you want to go out on your own. And so you're making plans and you're starting to work on things and build relationships, or maybe you're connecting with previous relationships to, build them anew and stuff like that. And there's also this scenario where you might be phased out or let go, as we both were. And all of a sudden, you didn't decide that. That's not what you planned or what you necessarily wanted, although we believe that everything works the way that it's supposed to. But it wasn't what you wanted. So now you're, in the moment. And so now you're out of that job and you're trying to find work and figure out what to do and figure out the path and all of that stuff. And I know a lot of people who are in that boat, right? Who have been let go, who have been phased out, who company structures changed or whatever happened. And all of a sudden they don't have a job. So there's the people who are in the job who know they want something else. There are people who are in the job who maybe they're not sure, but they're starting to think about it. There's people who are already out of the job by choice or not, which are a little bit different than each other. And also, because we both were let go and or phased out or whatever you want to say, but because that happened, we both actually had we got packages when we
Yeah,
left. And so we
yeah.
had a little bit of cash to be able to kind of survive for the next little while. Yours was probably better than mine, but we had a little bit of time at least to get our feet wet, right? But I think there's just so many different ways that this can happen. And through the stories that we're going to share today, I hope everyone sees there are so many different ways that you can go about this, and there's no right or wrong. And it's really you just being intentional and trusting and knowing for yourself what you think is the best. So just to give a little bit of an example on that, I actually was fired, straight up fired from my job in 2013, also working in corporate fitness. And when that happened, I knew it was coming for a little while, but I hoped that I'd be able to kind of fix it. And in the end, it just didn't work out. And so when I left there, I really thought, like, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was coming from a middle to upper management role, just like you, right? I had already been managing a team of 100 plus 13 different locations. Like, I was already in a pretty high level role. And to get in at that level in a different company is really hard. And I started out by applying to some other places where I thought that I would be a fit, where I thought that, okay, the corporate culture is sort of similar to what I'm used to and stuff like that. And I remember I applied to Apple, and their interview process was rigorous. It was crazy. And I had a referral there. I had a friend who, or actually, she's a previous colleague, she had worked for me and she was already there and she had referred me. But I still went through, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 interviews. They took a long time in between and all of that stuff. And in the midst of all of that, I ended up going to this fitness conference where I ran into an old colleague slash friend. And when I saw him, he was like, "Oh, you're exactly who I needed to see. I need help. I'm building this studio. I left the corporate fitness company. I'm building a studio on my own. I need help. Can you help me?" And I was like, "Well, I think so." So we kind of set up a little bit of a deal, and he was paying me hourly, a relatively low rate. I was just getting started. We were both going to help each other figure out if this is what we really wanted and how we wanted to work together and all that stuff. And just as that was starting, I got the offer from Apple. And I turned it down because I'm like, you guys took 4 months to get back to me. So no. And I'm already in this consulting coaching job with this guy who wasn't paying me much at all, but it was happening and I knew I loved it and I knew I wanted to do more of it. And the results were coming. And, we ended up working together for 2 years at that time, and we built a 6-figure studio for him. And, they're just like so many different ways that might have gone. But for me, the right choice at the time was to say no to the corporate job, because once I was in it, there was no way I was going to have time and bandwidth to be able to also be coaching on the side. So sometimes things happen in the timeline they're supposed to. If they would have offered me the job at 2 months instead of 4 months, I probably would have been in it.
Yeah.
I might still be there today. Right? Yeah. So you just never know how it's going to work. And I think there's a really important piece to deciding what is right for you. And I think as we have continued along in the business over the last 10 plus years, for each of us, we've been through other, ups and downs that have required different circumstances. We've had to make other decisions. So I know for me, I was living in my own condo. I had bought it with my own money when I was 30. I moved out by myself. I was so proud of that. I had saved, I had done all the things. And I bought my condo in 2011, I think, 2011. I'm living downtown Toronto, and then I lose my job. So now I'm in this mortgage that I could afford for a few months while I had my severance or my, payout or whatever. And then after that, it started to become tough. And I stuck it out and I stuck it out. And at some point along the journey there, two things happened. One, luckily I have 2 sisters, but my oldest sister is 8 years older than I am. And all of her friends had young kids. And I had never been a babysitter in the past. But at 35 or so, I was babysitting my sister's friends' kids so that I could make an extra $1,000 a month. And, one of her friends had me like 4 or 5 days a week, half the day. And I was able to, with the little bit that I had coming in from my coaching business and this additional babysitting money, which I could literally go to their house and sit on their couch for 4 hours and make like 80 or $100. It was a pretty good deal. And I was like, okay, I like kids. I've worked with kids before, no problem. I did the camp thing and whatever. And that's what I did. And like, this wasn't the most, cool job to be doing at 35. I felt pretty kind of lame for it, but I had to care more about what I thought and my business and what I wanted to do than I had to worry about what other people thought of me. And so that's what I did. And then eventually it still wasn't quite sustainable enough. So now we're like 2014, 2015, and I decided to actually sell my condo. And I had racked up a bit of debt and I used the condo sale to pay it off. And I moved home to my parents' house and lived in their basement apartment for longer than I should have. But at the time, the choice was go back and get a corporate job now. And I had already been out of my corporate job for a few years. And it was like, okay, I'm either going to try to go back, which is very difficult to do at the level that I wanted to be at and all of that stuff, or I really had to, drill down in the entrepreneurial space, which is what I wanted. And so again, I had to like let go of my ego and not worry about what anyone else was going to be saying or thinking. And I sold my condo and I moved home and I lived in their basement. And that's what I needed to do so that I could build this business. And the year that I moved home, I made six figures. So, not having the pressure of the mortgage, of keeping all the upkeep, of all that stuff, of being on my own, of all of that. My parents were incredible. I have a fantastic relationship with them. They were happy to have me. I was happy to be with them. I was single at the time, at least for some of it, and then not, but that's another story. And that's just what I needed to do. And so when we were talking about doing this episode, we talked about how vulnerable we were going to be. So there's some things that people probably don't know about us. And the real goal is to help everyone see that there's choices to be made and you can make whichever one works best for you. And we can all just let our ego go a little bit and just do the thing.
Yeah, I feel one of the things that I um my supervisor at the time, or my boss at the time, had left the club just prior, like about a couple of years before I left. And one of the things he said was take take a month, like they're gonna pay you out, so take a month and do nothing. Take a month and just recover, right?
Yeah.
Because then he goes, don't take too long, because I took too long and I couldn't get back. But take a month, sit on the couch, do whatever you got to do, work out or whatever, and just sort of like allow yourself to kind of let it go and dream up the plan, right? So I did that, and I worked on my health. I trained more. Actually signed up for a powerlifting competition after having retired for 10 years because I needed someone to drive me. And I
Yeah.
thought maybe there's some good content there in social media. I have a cousin who's in digital media, and he said a lot of your people are on Instagram. Go on Instagram and open up an account and start posting stuff in there. And when I went on Instagram, I saw a whole bunch of 20-year-olds shredded, doing shit that I would probably never be able to do, even in my prime, and thinking, is this what, you know, busy moms and dads in their middle ages are looking for, like when they look for fitness? Like, and I just realized there's a whole thing going on here in social media that I wasn't having to pay attention to until now. So I decided I'm gonna get myself in decent shape. I can document the process and get some ideas from that because I'm now going to be, I'm now a dad, business owner, you know, um, there's a lot of different sort of like ways I could look, and the business was called Domestic Athlete, which is domestically, parents and professionals doing their thing, making it work while keeping their health and keeping their wellness and keeping their mental health and stuff. So I was on
Yeah.
brand. Um, and I started at the studio. I had the teaching job as well, which all kind of worked out for the first 2 years, right? So I worked on my health and my performance, then competing. Um, then, after it got difficult for me again when uh, the strike, the teacher strike, sort of crushed a lot of the programs in the college, and they weren't looking to bring back as many part-time profs, right? So that I was released from that contract just simply because they didn't have the enrollment because of the strike the year before. So I was like, okay, now I'm freed up. I don't have to go into Toronto 2 or 3 times a week on the train.
Yeah.
I got more time, more availability at the studio. So I opened that up. And it was trickier because I no longer had just this regular sort of inflow
Yeah.
of cash coming in every 2 weeks. So I had to somehow make that up as quick as I could. And that's when it got a little bit tricky, right? And there was moments there where, you know, it's true. You have to like, especially if you have family and stuff like that. If I were to do it again, I would have responded faster. For example, I do have skills. I have skills that I've acquired since I was a teenager. I can paint, interior, exterior painting. I've done property maintenance and stuff like that. I can figure things out. I'm not the handiest guy in the world, but like I know people that can
Pretty
build.
good.
I know people that can build houses with their bare hands and stuff. There's that level, but I can figure things out. But you know, um, finishing through painting and stuff was something I put in a lot of years in when I was in college and stuff and growing up. So I would have probably responded quicker because I did have contacts and opportunities there. I
Yeah.
did do some along the way. But it's true, you do have to kind of let go of the fact that you might not be able to make money doing all just coaching work or whatever it is that you want to do in your business. Your revenue might be coming in from different sources while you're building that part, right? And I think it's important to also, I would have probably done this too, um, if I were to do it over again. I would probably communicate it more to my partner at the time, which is the mother of my son, because she had a day job, and I would have probably have communicated more on what was going on. Um, a lot of it was, I was just working away, and I didn't have answers, right?
Mm.
And that could create sharing that probably wouldn't be very comforting either. So I think I would have been more open and put myself even more to task to produce real like tangible results in a pretty strong time frame. I got into men's teams. I did a men's weekend, and I started going into men's meetings with other men who are a lot more successful in business than I have more years put in. So starting to position myself around as far as another thing that you can do with relationship building, position yourself around people that are doing or have done the things that you're looking to do. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to build a business and you're surrounded by people who are lifetime employees with probably great salaries and benefits and all the other things and know when they can count down the days till their retirement. They know exactly when they're going to retire. Those are not necessarily the right people to be around if you want to think like an entrepreneur, because those conversations are completely different. And you'll
Yeah.
think you're so far away from reality and from the targets, listening to them, that you might just decide to go back and get a job, right? So it's a different conversation. You need to be around other entrepreneurs most of the time, right? So those are some of the things that sort of I've learned along the way. I've been quite lucky though, and if I were to speak to anything that would have been very helpful, that was very helpful for me was when you do show up, the things that you do, whether it's been past clients, places you've worked at, whatever it is that you do, give it your all. Generate a reputation by being reliable and available, right? Because a lot of my leads, a lot of my opportunities came from relationships I kept or from people who worked with me or people I was employed with that know know that I was reliable, that I was going to be
Mm.
there on time, I'd never get sick, all the different things,
Yeah.
which led to opportunities down the road, whether it be through more client opportunities, referrals, or other opportunities to help supplement my income at the time. So these are all pretty, important things to consider if you're thinking of taking that leap, right? And I think the reason why I also bring this up is just to give if anyone's in this position where their business is not sustaining the lifestyle they want to have yet, is it's okay to do other things to supplement, right? Um, I'm a big believer in taking the pressure off what is required creatively to build your business and taking the pressure off the financial side of it until you've built enough foundation to now count on, right? Um, and it depends on the type of business and the style of business. Like if you're online, you have less overhead than a brick and mortar, right? I have some colleagues that did go brick and mortar as well, and that's a whole other level of stress. Like you got to find people to rent space to, and there's all these different things, right? So it really comes down to the style of business you want to have as well. But I definitely recommend be very bold with meeting as many people as you could. Like, I mean, some of the other relationships I had were neighbors and friends that I told about my business that connected me to networks.
Yeah.
And inside of those networks, I built more relationships that led to more opportunities. I was in networks that led me to other networks. And right now we've connected to a pretty big player in a certain part of the industry that could potentially blow up what we're working on right now simply from all the different relationships that I built along the way and that we built along the way to connect us to the party we went to over the holidays and to connect you got to trust that you got to start meeting is so like the amount of people that I interacted with on a daily basis or on a weekly basis when I was at the club was probably like my 15 to 20 every day. But when I left the club, my network expanded to hundreds of people like and sometimes globally, right? If you're online, there's no borders, right? So, um, the relationships I had to build after coming out from an employment sort of situation, like it's like a hunt, like you're hunting to meet the right people and connect with the right people and stuff. So, these are all things that come into play, and there's a mindset switch from employment or an employee mentality versus an entrepreneurial mentality, which they often oppose themselves, right? So,
Let's go back because you've just
yeah,
said a whole bunch of stuff.
yeah,
And we make sure that we like pull this out for everybody.
yeah,
So first of all, the networking piece and the connecting with people, this is something that you are literally the expert in. You're so great at this. You have such a natural way of being with people and genuinely connecting with them and genuinely wanting to know about them, and it draws people to you. And so, I think for anybody who is, whether you're in a job or whether you're an entrepreneur already, like this is one of the best skills that you can learn and improve so that you will always have people to go to connect with who will help you, move into whatever your next step is. So that's a big one. You also talked about being around other entrepreneurs. And I think this is something that people can do even when you are in a job. So whether you're in the scenario where you're in a 9 to 5 and you're starting to be an entrepreneur, or whether you're already an entrepreneur and you've decided to go back and get a part-time job of some kind, I think no matter what, you still want to be around entrepreneurs in some way. And this is also something that we are going back to after all these years of being online, and at least for me, not doing any networking in person, is huge focus on networking this year, in person and online as well, but at least with face to face type of connection. So I think that's a really big one. And the other like side note to say here is that, I learned this the hard way, is that your friends and family are usually not the ones who are going to really support you. I had one family member still sending me job postings 3 years in, being like, hey, it's not really working out that well for you. Uh, Maybe you should check out this job. And eventually I had to tell them to stop sending me job postings because I'm not going back to a
yeah.
job.
They're trying to help, but they're not. It's not the kind of help that you need.
So there's that. And then the other one that you talked about is the communication with spouses, partners, whatever. And this is one that actually comes up quite often with our clients. And as we have, like, especially since we've merged, there's a lot of conversation about the personal side of business. And we don't separate them, right? Everything goes together and one affects the other. And often people are going through a lot of challenges with their partners in terms of support, just like their actual emotional, that type of support. And then there's also the financial. And so, one of the things that I think is really important here and that I think can help people, not that we're relationship coaches or anything, but just from our experience together, it separately in our own lives, together in our life, and also seeing what's going on with others who are in our world, clients, colleagues, whatever. Like, this happens so much. And so if we can understand and be okay with going and getting a job that maybe isn't the ideal, maybe isn't the exact thing we want to do, maybe isn't, at the level that we were at in our previous or whatever it is. If we give ourselves permission to do that, we might have the chance to alleviate some of the financial pressure on ourselves and on our families as well.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that this is a big one where people feel like, no, and again, everyone has their own situation, because sometimes it's, no, I really need to go and get something to take that pressure off, and to know I have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 bucks coming in just as like a base, and then I can work on my business. And for other people, there may come a time where they're like, well, that 10 or 20 hours a week is actually distracting me, and I'm not able to focus on and build my business the way that I want it. So those two things both happened to me along the way. I did live in both pieces, right? I babysat for this amount of time. And then eventually, when I decided to move home, it was because I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do both and really focus the way I wanted to. And so I moved home. I paid off the debt. I lived in my parents' basement. It was not the most, like, exciting time of my life, but I was able to hire a coach with the money that I was making, and I was able to quadruple my revenue. So
Yeah.
it's like, sometimes we just have to do these things. And I think that if we give ourselves permission to go back and get the job, or take something that isn't exactly what we are known for, or isn't exactly what we'd want to be doing at that point in our lives, if we allow it so that we can make the money and take some pressure off, it can help us. It can also help our relationships and families and all that stuff. So, again, we're not saying you have to do that, but if you want to do that and you're not doing it because you're afraid of what it will look like or whatever, F
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. In the end of the day, no one really, people don't care. The only person that's going to save you is yourself, right? Like, um, when I think of supplementary income too, supplement with something that works too. Maybe you need the flexibility, right? There's definitely some things that would probably not be optimal. Like if you just added another 90 minutes one way drive to your day to go do a job that is kind of draining, and you got to drive 90 minutes back home, it's probably not optimal, right? Even if the hourly rate is pretty good, you're not going to have enough bandwidth and life force or even just physical energy
Yeah.
to to do what you need to do to get your business going. But if there is something that was maybe local or online or something, and you can actually choose how much hours you put in and how much availability you can give up, and you can ramp it up or bring it down. Um, I don't have anything off the top of my head what this would be, but there are some things that I've done in the past. But then you got like some options,
Yeah.
right? But like I've done jobs before too that I've actually enjoyed, but it did drain me mentally and emotionally. Like for example, I knew from the very beginning I was never, you know, um, I've done some teaching with kids before, and camps with kids from like K all the way up to 8, right? And when I was a personal trainer, usually the minimum age I would work with is probably high school, so 14 and up, right? Um, Kids are fun. Actually, kindergarten is a lot of fun, but it's not really my niche. So it would take life force from me to generate myself to do my
Yeah.
best work there.
Yeah.
And that would come home and I sleep for 2 hours, right? and then I'm like uninspired. I don't have the energy I need to create, and then I you kind of get in a stuck in a kind of a rut, right? Um, what's interesting is if in the past I've taken a painting job that I can say I'm available this day and this day, rather than I'm available 5 days a week or I'm being forced to be in 5 days a week. If I'm available on this month for these specific days, I can come in and do it. I actually, while I'm painting, I can listen to podcasts. I'm generating new ideas because my brain is not in my business. My brain is getting a break from my business while I'm doing something that is with my hands. I know in the end of the day, I'm gonna get paid. And I know in the end of the day, this room's gonna look better. So and I'm working with a team sometimes. Like there's other things going on that kind of like is keeps the optimism going. And it's not for me sometimes it's not draining. It's actually it gets me kind of going. It gets me more thinking about my business and what's the next podcast I'm going to do or whatever, right? So you got to really sit down and look at, what is optimal to support the ultimate mission, right? And
Yeah.
not look at the shiny object of, this potential salary over here. You just bring your, if you want to be employed, then that's probably the direction you're going to go. If you want to start a business for real, you have to decide what you're going to trade out in order to make that happen, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's, I don't know about you, but I think that's everything that I had and I thought was really important to share. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we wrap up today?
Yeah, because we didn't kind of know the direction it was going to go. I think I wrote down something to just summarize the checkpoints, right? So the first thing would be it comes back to my former boss telling me to take the month off. At the very beginning, make sure your health is optimized.
Yeah.
Your health and your family life is optimized. You need the you know paying attention to what matters most, your health and your immediate relationships, your inner circle, your family. Look after that stuff first, right? Secondly is just start building your network. Build your relationships. It's the relationships, the people you know that's going to gain you access to the next opportunity or exchange or partnership or whatever it is, right? The thirdly is this is the one I didn't do right away was set targets with deadlines. Hard targets with hard deadlines and make yourself accountable, whether your own accountability or through a team or through somebody. Make yourself accountable to solving that problem and producing results as best you can. Because if there's no deadlines, there's no urgency, right? Um, the fourth is when you get to supplementary income, find something that works, find something that fits. I recommend, again, minimize travel, minimize extra expenses through travel, minimize hassle and stress, minimize, all of that if you can, and make sure that the trade out is good. Minimize the expenditure of bandwidth and energy
Yeah.
um, and life force, right? So that you can make the extra income and still work in your business. And the fifth one would be, and I got this from a book, was think big, but start small,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Think about big about where you want to go with your business. But and we talked about this before with some of our clients as well, is you don't need to have the perfect website or you don't need to have the perfect, business card or this or that or whatever it is that's kind of like distracting. You need to just meet people and generate leads. That's the main thing. You need to generate the life force of the business, right? Maybe hone your craft a bit, but there's a lot of things that you don't have to do right away. You can get to those later, but the big thing is just making those moves every day. It's going to lead to some life force, some business, some revenue coming in. So, and in the beginning, you could probably only focus on few things really well, right? In that beginning part of the business. So those are the five main things I think that I drew from the conversation. I think hopefully that's helpful for those. And this could be for people who, like you said, people who are just starting up or thinking about it, and people who've been in their businesses for a while and want to transform it into the next level. Quite often we can't transform the next level because we're running an old program that worked at a certain level, but that program doesn't work in the next level, which now puts us in this position to what is the bridge? What is the bridge from here to that next space where, more revenue and less time, more freedom, more opportunities, more more flexibility in your lifestyle, right? So, at least for us, that's the objectives that we like to celebrate, right? So, yeah, those are my five checkpoints that to finalize the conversation, and I hope this is helpful for those listening. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to add one more thing before we
Yeah.
sign off, which is just the permission, right? So if you guys haven't given yourselves permission, if you need it from an outside source, here we are giving you permission to go and get that side hustle, do the side job, do the other thing that you need to do while you're building. It's all good. Move out, sell your house, whatever you need to do for you to live your dream and be able to work less and make more so you can do the things that you love with the people you love. That's what this is all about. And you can do it whichever way you want. So thank you guys so much again for being here. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Of course, as always, if you want to connect with us, drop a comment below here or send us a message, Jody Rumack Coaching on Instagram. If you want to join our 21-day free trial inside the Becoming the CEO virtual studio program, we'd love to see you inside there. Just send me a DM with BTC and we'll get you all set up. And that's it for today. Let's sign off and we'll see you back next time.
Great. See you guys in the next session.